Hey guys, Smallville, Last Son of Krypton, the Man of Steel, these are all nicknames for Superman. As long as there's been video games, there's been people trying to create the perfect Superman video game, and let's be honest, they haven't been very good. Actually, they all freaking stink. I mean, what are the odds that every Superman game is that bad? Well, they really are. Over the last decade, we've seen Batman games and Spider-Man games that are so good, they're almost like Game of the Year contenders. So it makes no sense that the biggest and most popular superhero of all time, Superman, doesn't have a game to match those other two. So in this video, I'm going to tell you guys how I would make the perfect Superman video game. It's not much more to say than grab your favorite snack, yum 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 yum. Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's a brand new video from Turbo Jesse, and here we go. Before we begin, I do need to say, if you're new to my channel, definitely think about subscribing and hitting that like button. It really helps out. And next, probably the most important thing about any Superman game that you could possibly do is no rings in the game at all. No rings. I don't want to see any rings. I think the first thing people think about when they think about Superman and a video game is Superman 64, and that game freaking sucks. If you can see the footage right here, obviously it's not me playing, but this first level was so excruciatingly hard, and flying through stupid rings makes no sense. So in my Superman game, there won't be any rings in sight. None, I swear to God. Next up, one of the biggest problems with Superman is he's too OP. He's too overpowered. Like, how are Superman gonna face any bad guy? He's like the last son of Krypton. He's basically a god. And that's, stripping him of all his powers in the beginning of the game. Very similar to like what Samus happens in Metroid games. Superman is just gonna have to have all his powers stripped, and then as he goes on through the game, regain them, and that'll, make it really fun for the player to, regain his powers and get new achievements and feel like accomplishment every time they beat a boss or a level. Some of the powers we're talking about here are flight, superhuman hearing, X-ray vision, heat vision, cold breath, super speed, and even enhanced hearing. And something's going to have to happen early in the game to Clark Kent, Man of Steel, Superman to lose all his powers and kind of gain them back. And how he'll gain them back, I can really think of two options here. The first one is kind of like Zelda, where every level or right before he fights a boss or a mini-boss, he gains one power back, and he needs that power to help him fight the boss and get through that level. So it would kind of be like a Metroidvania style, sorta, where, you gain powers and, use those powers to, like, find new areas that you couldn't beat earlier in the game. So those are always kind of fun. I know people are really sick of hearing the word Metroidvania, but I think it could work here. The other option is for a point system, where everything you do, you gain some points, and then you have a skill tree, and the player can gain to like increase or gain any power he wants at any time. That really gives it like an RPG-light element, and it gives a lot of choice to the player. I'm leaning towards more the designated power at a certain time thing, so the developers can really make the level or area very skewed to that power, and so it could feel like it really means a lot to gain that power at that certain time. And don't get me wrong, in both these options I do want some sort of light point system so you can improve the powers at your choice. So if you really like one power, you can put all your points there, or if you dislike heat vision, you don't need to improve it. Very similar to on Spider-Man, you kind of gain your powers, but then it kind of branches off how you like it. I think that's a really smart way to do it with Superman 2. And I know what you're going to say. You want to play Superman because you want to feel like Superman. You want to feel like you're almost invincible. And don't get me wrong, there's going to be a lot of endgame stuff where you have all your powers, and then there's going to be New Game Plus where Superman is just OP and you can just have the time of your life. But I think it's really important to gain your powers very slowly, so not only do you feel like accomplishment, but you feel motivation to keep playing, and what's right around the corner, that new power that can really be, change your gameplay and make it really fun to continue. I mean, the one power that's the most important to me personally is flying. It just needs to feel right. Before the developers do anything, they need to put all the resources they can into making flying feel perfect. I mean, this is just a part of the game that means so freaking much. Just look at Spider-Man with zipping around the city, or even God of War with Kratos and his axe Leviathan. If that doesn't feel perfect, the game is going to be just totally messed up. So flying needs to be perfect. I'm just saying, like, don't even start the development of the game until you're flying down to a science and it feels really fun. And this next thing is really important. I'm not saying copy other games, but look at what worked at Spider-Man and look what worked at the Arkham games and kind of build on that. This first Superman game doesn't need to innovate, it doesn't need to reinvent the wheel, it just needs to get it right. We just need to prove that a Superman video game is possible and it could be fun. Maybe the sequel you could really innovate and really experiment and go out on a limb and try new things, but this first game, I would really just try to borrow things from other games that have worked to really make a solid title. And like I just said, you make a very solid title with the first game, then the sequels, you can really innovate and really open it up from there. But if you don't have a good base, you know, we've seen it so many times, it's very easy to screw up a Superman game. This really might annoy people, but I don't think this first Superman game should be open world. I mean, granted, there should be big open sandbox areas where there's a lot to do, but it shouldn't be completely opened. Just like Last of Us Part 2 and God of War feels open, but it's really not. I think it's really important for Superman to just stay in its lane and create a very fun playstyle that's not really open. Like I said a minute ago, maybe the sequel will be open, but I just think it's so freaking important to create a game that's just really solid from A to B. And open world games sometimes just get so messy and bogged down in like creating a great land and world that they almost forget about the game. So I think it's just really important to make a really fun game, and sorry, this first game will not be open world. Maybe it's even mission-based and you go to the Fortress of Solitude for the next chapter or for next mission, and as you beat that mission or chapter, you know, the world behind you kind of opens up. So if you beat a level or stage, you could always go back to it with your newfound powers and kind of explore areas that you weren't able to. Let's just say there was an area that you couldn't open up because you didn't have your heat vision, but then you gain the heat vision. You go back to that prior stage and use the heat vision and maybe get some sort of collectible, or maybe just a brand new area to explore. It could be just really fun, but I think, you know, you kind of make it mission based or chapter based, and you could just like plot out where you gain your powers, and you can make this game like really cinematic with just a really great story. And when it comes to the story, or the first thing that comes to mind when I'm thinking about story is characters. And I'm thinking that some of the Justice League characters could be there, but some of the bigger ones like Batman and Wonder Woman, maybe they're off planet fighting some interdimensional or galactic villain. But I'd love to see you like race Flash in a mission, or do some sort of underwater section against Aquaman, or have some other missions with some of the less known Justice League like Atom, who's basically like Ant-Man, or I'd love to see Green Lantern. Just saying, I think it's a really good idea to incorporate some of maybe not the biggest tier Justice League. I just think it's more fun for Superman just interact with some of these other Justice League members, and there's just so many characters to choose from. And when it comes to villains, there's a lot of options as well, but for this first game, I'm going with Brainiac and Lex Luthor as kind of like the, you know, the mini boss of the game. If you're not familiar with who Brainiac is, in my favorite version, he's actually the supercomputer that was actually on Krypton, and when the planet exploded, he kind of just went out and he just kind of assimilate like all these planets so he could store them in his ship and to make sure that no other planet loses all its memories. And if you're a planet yourself, you might not really want Brainiac to kind of come down and kind of like capture all the civilization and all the records and put it on his ship. Brainiac's a great character and a great choice because he could be the one responsible for getting rid of all of Superman's powers at the beginning of the game. So maybe Brainiac comes down, he zaps Superman, loses all his powers, and Brainiac says, "I'll be back to take over the planet in a week." And so you have to kind of gain all your powers back somehow in that week. Other villains I really love are Bizarro Superman, who's kind of like a zombie version of Superman. I mean, my favorite villain probably of all time is Doomsday from the comics. Not this guy, never this guy, but this guy. This guy rules. Again, this guy sucks, this guy rules. But I guess we could save him for the sequel. Let's talk about art style, and it needs to look top notch. I mean, if you look at the Avengers game that came out last year, it just looked a little off, and the players were just never able to get over it. It wasn't the Avengers they were thinking about. So I wouldn't base Superman on what the movies looked like. I would kind of create its own thing, but I would make it look so good that no one would even care if it looked different from what they remembered. This game needs to be a top-notch AAA game and really look like one as well. So my Superman game needs to be very, very cinematic. I want it to be a great story and you really care about the characters. That's why Superman has to lose his powers. Superman as a character is just so strong, he's like a god, but his personality is a little vanilla. He cares about justice and doing the right thing, but he doesn't have a lot of character like traits that are very interesting, so make him lose his powers, create doubt in his mind, and have to go all over the place to kind of get his powers back. For me, that's just like an interesting story and something that I think could drive the first game a lot. Like I said before, this game needs to look insanely good. I need it to be a next generation game and really be a system pusher. So unfortunately, Switch owners, I think this is going to be an Xbox Series X and PS5 game only. Just would not be able to run on the Switch, and I don't want to dumb it down for the Switch either. In terms of developers, I'm not really sure. I know Rocksteady has been heavily working on a new Suicide Squad game. I think it's called Kill the Justice League, and that game actually has Superman in it as well, but I think it's the bad guy. We're going to learn more about that game this upcoming week at PlayStation's State of Play, so I'm excited for that. But I'm not really sure who to give the game to, but it needs to be a developer who really cares about Superman as an IP and has a passion for creating like open games with superheroes in them. I mean, there's just a lot that can go wrong with a Superman game. One wrong move and the game will just suck. And we've seen that recently with a lot of other superhero games. So guys, Superman is one of the most beloved characters of all time. He's been around for like 100 years. What do you think of my predictions for this game? Do you think a Superman game could work at all? Or what are some of your thoughts of how to make a really good Superman game? Let me know right there in the comment section down below and I'll be sure to get back to you. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you to my Patreons. If you haven't already, definitely think about subscribing and hitting that like button. It really helps out smaller channels like myself. Again, guys, my name is Turbo Jesse and I'll see you on the flip side.